challenge is we need to come up with better, quicker, smaller sensors because if we're going to make these biomimetic systems, these nanoscale systems, we also need to come up with the integration of sensors into these systems for their operation. Nature uses many types of sensors, some more elaborate than others. And however, speed and simplicity of the sensor and the control systems seem to be, they are a must. And insects, again, are great inspiration for this. And I'm only going to be able to cover just a few sensors. And the most famous one, most famous inspirational sensor is the compound eye in insects. They have a large, like this is a dragonfly. It has a huge, large field of view. I mean, its whole head, this is a male, its whole head is pretty much covered with eye. They may, overall, each little eye that makes up a compound eye may have low spatial resolution, but it can still perceive shapes, it can perceive movement, which is very important for this dragonfly because it hunts while it's on the wing, while it's flying. And depth perception is very good in some insects, like mantids, when they sit there very quiet, praying mantids, and they can strike out to get their prey. They have very good depth perception. But they do all of this without overloading the brain, because insects do have relatively small brains. So how do they do this? And can we learn from that? Well, they do this by each compound eye is just one small eye. It's a combination of lots of small eyes, and each eye sees the world, perceives light, and then sends that information to the brain. And it's integrated in one area of the brain as a complete image. The most interesting aspect of the fly's vision is that the field of view of each photoreceptor of each individual eye overlaps with one next to it. So this eye may see the P in the eye, and this eye may see the I in the R, for instance. So and they do this so there's like a 90% overlap. The overlap then results in the higher effective resolution than if there was just one eye. And this overlap, that's higher accuracy, but it's in an analog way. So it is very relatively fast. So the processing system is actually analog, and it extracts the edge info very quickly, and then enables parallel processing, as you see here, where they made a sensor based on one of the eyes within a compound eye, and then it senses the edges and how it moves, and just by doing that, can you get an output, and the stimulus can go very fast, and still this sensor, a very simple sensor, would be able to see it. The digital system would go pixel by pixel by pixel, which would, of course, maybe be more precise, but it would just lead to overload, and there are certain sensors where we just don't need that. So people are actually, this research group is actually working on putting 7 sensors together, making a compound eye, and doing it that way. There's also another application where they build the compound eye through 3D microfabrication, actually pouring an ommatidium, which is the individual eye, one eye sensor, making that on a nanoscale. So you have actually a lens, just like the insect has a lens. This is the natural compound eye cross section. Here's the artificial compound eye. It has a micro lens. It has a cone that guides the light in a certain direction, just as the natural compound eye does. And then here are pigments in the natural eye, and here is a photodetector that will guide the light down and will sense it. And if you put a whole bunch of these together, if you manufacture that 3D, then they actually are able to create these artificial compound eyes. And this was done in 2006 and published in Nature. And it's a beautiful example of insects being inspiration. And they are actually able to detect photons this way. Another area for inspiration is the insect antenna. For as many insects as there are, many different species, different families of insects, there are almost as many different kinds of antennae, so these things that stick out of the insect's head, and they are either usually used to detect chemical information from the environment, but sometimes also vibrational information, so taste and smell and tactile. And once upon a time, actually, we knew all these names, but we don't know them. But so there's many different ones, and this is probably the most famous example. The clumos ones. Male moth butterflies have these huge antennae that are have lots of branches coming off of it. Here you see that this is a male moth. He needs to find the female. The female has much smaller antennae, just maybe like just this one thing sticking out, not all these branches coming off. She's the one that releases the pheromone, and just depends on the male to find that chemical that she's releasing and saying, hey, I'm over here and I'm ready to mate, come and find me. And while she's looking for a place to lay her eggs, and first to mate and then to lay her eggs, the male will just fly upstream and sense the concentration of the pheromone, of the chemical, and go follow the female. And this looks really easy over here. We're talking a lot of processing here, where it finds a plume and then it comes out again and then finds it again, and so it goes increasing concentration. It starts flying less erratically as it comes closer and closer and closer. And this can be miles and miles and miles. They're very sensitive. These antennae are very sensitive, and they work closely with the brain to make it informed decisions on which way to go. Also, they only respond to a certain chemical, only to the chemical released by the species, the female of the same species, not another species.